Welcome back to It's the Capital Call, where we have keep it simple conversations about real life solutions to real world problems to help you avoid having to make that dreaded capital call in your business. As always, 100% of the profits generated off today's episode will be donated to the Empowerment Fund to help support our mission of changing the world through the power of financial literacy and entrepreneurship. Today, we have with us Anu Shukla of Botco AI. Anu, thank you for joining. For those of us that are not familiar with your journey yet, as well as Botco AI, can you give us a little bit of a 20,000-foot overview of what it's been like as an entrepreneur and what you're tackling today as a problem?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. Great cause. Love to support it. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've started 5 companies and I've had 3 exits totaling about $1 billion. I've been known to like bootstrap companies initially and then go in for VC funding when the company is a little bit further along. And I've mostly done companies in MarTech and in AdTech. So my last company just exited 2 weeks ago. It's a company called Tapjoy. It was bought for $400 million. The one before was called MyBuys. It was an e-commerce recommendation engine that was bought at approximately $200 million at that time. And my first company was a company called Rubrik, which was a pioneer in marketing automation, when marketing automation used to be considered an oxymoron almost like 20 years ago. And that company exited in 18 months for about $366 million. So I've had my fair share of exits. I've also had some that I've not exited yet and still working on those. Botco is my latest venture along with my co-founders, and it tries to take on where Rubrik left off. Rubrik was my first marketing automation company. So basically, when we looked at the marketplace, we saw that people were doing some of the concepts we originally introduced into marketing automation, such as lead nurturing, email drip marketing, and all those things. They were still based on email and the same workflows. And what we tried to do is to use artificial intelligence and the use of chat technology, which is more modern and what more people are used to now, and to really spice up or enhance and complement the current marketing automation stack in B2B enterprises or B2C enterprises. And so that's what we're focused on right now. Because of the pandemic, our focus really shifted towards those vertical markets that needed a huge digital innovation, shot in the arm, like healthcare.
Yes.
Like healthcare. So we found low-hanging fruit there. But now we're sort of expanding our TAM. So I've faced a lot in these 5 companies. I've faced a lot of problems about money, valuation, hiring, retention, growth, churn. And so I'm happy to talk about this subject, and hopefully I can help some aspiring entrepreneurs.
I appreciate this. Phenomenal opportunity to be able to talk to you today. Hopefully you become a serial guest on the podcast, because I feel like there's so much experience and knowledge that we should be able to extract from you and share with some of our listeners, our fellow investopreneurs that are on their journey. Maybe it's the first time and maybe they're bootstrapping, which I feel like what we're going to talk about today is probably so spot on, right? So it's that concept of how do we grow with a small budget, which many of our listeners are dealing with today. They're maybe just getting off the ground. They have limited money as well as limited people on their team. Mm-hmm. Can you talk us through your experience from going from, because you mentioned bootstrapping quite a few, and then getting that velocity with venture and then getting to the exit? I mean, such a phenomenal track. Can you talk us through this in terms of the why factor? Why is this important in terms of a concept to approach? And then the how factor. How did you address it yourself?
Absolutely. So let's talk about the small budget aspect of it. As a startup, I think even as a marketing startup, what we tend to do is we tend to realize that we have to build a product. So we have to hire engineers and they have to be paid. And either they're paid in equity, cash, or both. So there's no way to cut corners around. We have to build a product, and it has to be a stable product. And they have to support it. And we need people to sell the product. And the thing that always gets squished, even for a marketing automation company, is marketing. Because marketing we could just go, in marketing, I have a budget. And I can spend that budget on people, or I can spend it on programs. So I can buy more LinkedIn advertising. I can buy more social media posts or ads. I can do all this stuff. So that's budget. And, then we tend to say, well, if I kept my people count low, I could really spend all the money in programs. And so you make a choice towards programs versus people. So you're generally dealing with a tiny staff. And you really have to leverage yourself. And so that's a choice that every startup is going to face. You're going to have a small marketing budget. And when you get down to allocating that budget, you're going to try to allocate it towards programs more than hiring a staff. Okay. And so what does that mean? It means you need a trusted network of agencies, agencies that are small, that will work with you for low fees or based on consumption. So they don't charge you a retainer, they charge you per hour they work for you. So first of all, it's important to get agencies that are really good at what they do. So if you're trying to do SEO, if you want to do organic SEO, just get the best agency or practitioner that you can find, and then basically negotiate with them and pay them a fee versus trying to hire an SEO or growth expert inside the company. Okay.
Now that's fascinating. So the recommendation here is, so the problem is we have limited resources.
Mhm.
We have to build a product. Not only do we have to build a product that's good, it has to be stable and we have to support it. So resources need to go towards that. Now we have a product, so we have to sell a product. If we sell a product, that means potential headcount. In order to sell a product at all, we need to generate demand generation. And that requires, realistically budget, right? So programs in order to be able to do that. And we have limited budget. So where are we allocating? Are we allocating towards people? Is this a people solution, or is this a different spend solution?
Yes.
And in terms of your suggestion, in terms of initial approach, which is fantastic, for folks in this situation, you're suggesting that don't build the talent in-house.
No.
Go find specialists that have already become the best at this and negotiate awesome terms with them realistically.
Yeah. Yes. Awesome terms with them. If you need, you need their talent, and you have more discretionary budget for programs, which is, you can't get around that, right? If you want to do a boosted post in LinkedIn, you're going to have to pay them. So that would be the thing that I would go. Now, let me tell you about some of the techniques that work really well in amplifying the voice with a small budget. So the number one thing is taking your people in the company, whether it's engineering, whether it's your founders, and basically making them larger than life and the spokesperson for your company. And for the subject matter, expert subject matter. So let's say you're doing you're doing something in marketing automation. If you have like the leading marketing automation experts that help design your products that are your founders, they should be out there representing you. And I would get them on every single podcast, interview, and speaking slot ever. Those are free and they really amplify your voice. And so, a lot of times in companies that I've been in, all of the first 10, 20, 30 customers came from just people's, founders and executives speaking at different, very targeted conferences or podcasts, and people just calling them and saying, hey, that sounded interesting. So first of all, it builds your credibility. It generates a lot of content that you can reuse, and you can do a lot of social media posts and reels and all of that out of it. You can put it on your website. It'll really decorate your website, and it'll help with your SEO because all that content is there. And you will get just inbound leads, which is what your sales force needs. Because when they call somebody, they're not saying, hi, I'm calling from Google. They're like, I'm calling from ABC company. And the first question is, why would I talk to ABC company? But if you get the word out through establishing expertise in that area, then you get inbound calls. And so the question isn't, who are you? It's like, I'm calling you because I heard something interesting that I think applies to me. Okay. So that is like one technique that you can use that costs you time, but really doesn't even cost you any money. Okay. And it kind of feeds all your other efforts. I know a company where they were making some kind of a web editing, content editing product, and they put the founder on 50 podcasts and got, 200 sales cycle going. Okay.
Phenomenal. I mean, this is talk about a blueprint, right? So for investopreneurs listening right now, you're at home, you have a product. A lot of our folks are folks that have dedicated themselves and committed to the process, and they figured out what product market fit needs to be, and they've been able to listen to the customer and their needs, and they've been able to build that to suit. Now they have a product that's ready to sell. They still have this problem though of limited budget, right? And what you just gave is an exact blueprint, an exact playbook of how they can go out and generate demand without spending any money.
Exactly.
You're
That's
trading
it.
time,
Yeah.
but there's no real cost.
No, you don't have to come up like, you can't spend money that you don't have. So if you didn't raise $5 million for a marketing budget, then you're going to have to be innovative. And this is what I'm suggesting. I'm suggesting that it has worked. It has worked for us. It's worked for me in many companies. So you go out and amplify your voice by being an expert, by knowing your subject matter, and by eliciting inbound calls, which are always more qualified and help your salespeople. So you get your MQL number up by having it an inbound call, and you prevent your precious sales resource from wasting their time just knocking at doors, because the people come knocking to our door. So that's technique number one. The second thing is to support this effort by a PR program. Okay, a PR program which doesn't involve too much expenditure. Okay, if you have some budget, you can get a PR practitioner, moonlighting PR practitioner, or even a small firm to work with you, and generally churn out some good but well thought out product releases on a timely basis. So every 2 weeks or every 3 weeks, do a press release, put it on PR web, okay, or put it on something that's not that expensive. That'll get your content, basically your announcement out everywhere, and things like product announcements, press releases, or customer success press releases, or even offering up your customers that are seeing some benefits out of implementing your product will be very interesting to the targeted publications. So let's say you're in healthcare and you want to talk about how somebody really streamlined an admissions process or a virtual waiting line using your product, then you can offer that, and editors will snap it up because they want to know how companies are really using new technology to get better results. So customer success stories and product announcements do very well. So it doesn't cost a lot of money at all. Still, we're talking very cheap, and you can amplify your voice. So that's number two.
Love that.
Okay.
Love that. So literally, and then furthermore, for the investopreneurs listening at home, we know that you have a Trello board, or you have some sort of documentation of what's coming up next in your sprint cycles. What we're literally saying in this conversation is take that and use that. Take that and communicate that. Lean in and invest into the PR channel and support a PR program. And this is an area where you may go find somebody who's moonlighting, and you can get at a good economic cost basis, or you can go and find an agency that you can work with, and again, lean into the agency relationship, which I think is phenomenal advice that you're giving. And it's awesome to be able to hear it, because oftentimes folks listen and they think like, should I be hiring? What makes me credible? And sometimes we have these doubts that kind of just compromise the decision making. So I think hearing this from you is so powerful, and I appreciate you for it. So take that PR channel, take what you're coming up on your product launches, put it out there, then look to capture some customer feedback stories, right? Think about the publications that you're targeting. What would be valuable for them? What would they be interested in publishing? How do you create value, align with that value, and get it out there? Doesn't cost $1.
Doesn't cost $1, and it's much more valuable than you buying a full page ad in the Wall Street Journal.
Seriously.
You can't afford anyway. Okay. So you don't have the money. So this is what you do. Okay. The next technique, very important, surveys. Okay. So surveys are very important because, again, they're relatively free. And what you can do is survey a subject that is instrumental to proving your value. So you could do something like, if you're making marketing automation software, we often did, what is the state of the marketing, automation technology stack, or what are people using? What is the top priorities for CMOs for next year? Okay. So everybody's interested in that. you're actually talking to your audience, because if you're selling to CMOs, marketing automation staff, then you want to know what they're thinking of. First of all, it's interesting to you, but it's also interesting to other CMOs. And so you're establishing more of your credibility by this technique. And so you go out and you survey, for, let's say, you're bringing out a new kind of hygiene product for medical environments. You survey hospitals. So surveys are very important. You design them so they are scientific, and you design them for the exact goal, and it's interesting to your audience, which is the people you're selling to. And you do these surveys, and then you turn it into a study, and then you launch it as a press release. And now you have credibility, and everybody's reading that, and they're associating you with the leading edge technology on hygiene products, or marketing automation, or whatever your expertise is. So I would say use surveys as a technique, again, relatively free.
That is fantastic. So quite literally, and I love the fact that a lot of these strategies are literally cascading, right? Because I'm thinking about common themes, and a big part of the common theme is credibility in each one of these. So podcasts, we're building up credibility, extending our brand voice. In the PR program, it's credibility because we're sharing the credibility of the publications in which we're publishing into. Surveys, it's credibility because we're able to go to the right pools, which I think is critically important. Identify the right customers, the right pools, create something interesting to them that would be valuable to them, capture that feedback, and then repurpose it, turn it into a report, share it through a PR press, and get the credibility that you just published that report with.
Yes, and you're taking up space. Your content is out there. People are reusing it. People are quoting you. So-and-so did a survey of 1,000 CMOs, and they report that indeed social media is the most important thing for next year, and so on and so forth. Everybody's reading that. It's like, who did the study? Oh, it's your company. Okay, great. So now, again, you have some recognition, and you have some inbound calling, and you've established some expertise in that area. And then finally, because I could go on forever, we must, at some point, I have to stop giving away our secrets. The other thing that I think is really important is to examine your TAM, right? So initially, when you go out, it's really important to be focused. And so let's say you're focused and you say hospitals. Hospitals are the ones that really need, I'm just making this up. Hospitals really need my product, right? And you go out and you call 100 hospitals, and 2 of them raise their hands, and you're in a sales cycle with them. This is what we call the low-hanging fruit of what you thought was your TAM, okay? So the people that actually come to you are basically, if you really examine them, they were hospitals that had a certain practice, that were of a certain size. They were mid-size, not large. And so you have this incredible phenomena of the shrinking TAM. So when you first thought TAM, you thought all hospitals. When you actually went and contacted them, you found out it isn't all hospitals. It's 20 of the 100, okay, that really need your product. Now, by going after the 100, you're going not after the low-hanging fruit, but more difficult to find customers, because you'll find an exact match for what you have. So this makes your TAM actually shrink, okay? So what you want to do is to expand your TAM. You want to make sure that your product is applicable to more than those 20. You can do that in the same vertical, or you can take in some vertical that is nearby that has got the same characteristics, okay? So if you're in hospitals, for example, you might want to look at telemedicine. And what you're doing there is you're looking for low-hanging fruit. How does this affect you? This affects you in all the programs that you do. So instead of just focusing your message to those 100 hospitals, you start not diluting, but making your message applicable to some adjacent TAMs you've identified with the characteristics that are matched. Now you're going for low-hanging fruit again. Low-hanging fruit is what you want out of your early entry into the market. Because if you're grubbing around for business and trying to find out of 1,000 people, the 5 that want your product, it's always harder to do that. You have to follow like very strict ABM strategies to do that. But now, if you expand your TAM, your sales force is playing with low-hanging fruit again. Your MQLs will start flowing, and that's called growth. So that's another strategy.
Love that. That is, I mean, that is gold. That is absolutely
That is
gold.
gold. Yeah.
Because folks listening at home, I know that we oftentimes can fall victim to the fact of we'll identify a market, we will sell ourselves on the fact that that is our market, that is what we identify with, that is what we solve the problem for. We go to market now and we identify these 100 potential prospects, and we're only able to get to 20. We're only able to get to the low hanging fruit because that's realistically where the most efficient and effective sales are. We get to our unit economics.
Yes.
And then what we do is after we get to that 20, we beat ourselves up and we're saying, oh no, we need to now get to the rest of the 100. And we're going upstream and we're fighting, we're going against the wind.
Yes.
What we really just heard is the secret sauce. We just heard the secret sauce of blueprint. Find an adjacent TAM, find a market that shares similar quality traits to the value that you've already delivered into, and go after the low hanging fruit there, and then do that again.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And most people don't know this. They're like, no, we're healthcare. We have to go to these 100 hospitals. No, you don't have to. You have to go where people can get value out of your product. Look for those characteristics in an adjacent TAM. You will find it, guaranteed. And all of a sudden, you're going after low-hanging fruit. It's not so difficult anymore. Like I said, once people keep bashing at the same 100 or 1,000, and they're not going after low-hanging fruit, MQLs start to shrivel. And then
costs go up.
And then and then the costs go up, and the salespeople are saying, that's not a lead. They don't want to buy right now. They want to buy in 6 months, or they have like a Unix server, okay, and they don't do our software. All this stuff you'll run into. So instead, what you can do is say, let's look for people that need the high velocity engagement on a website that has blah, blah, blah. And that can, that has more than 10,000 employees. Where do I find that? Oh, look, telemedicine, growing segment. Let's go after that. All of a sudden, your MQLs literally start gushing again, and your salespeople are too busy to argue.
Love that. There was so much value on this call. I would love to have you back on the podcast if at all possible. I feel like there's so many golden nuggets that are all over the place that we could pick up. You've given us so much today. One of the ways that we love to close these episodes out in appreciation of your time is we believe truly that you get more by giving than by taking. You've given us a ton. If there's anything that we could give to you, there's a lot of folks listening. If you could wave your magic wand and solve one problem that you wish that you could get help with today, what would that be?
What would that be? Let me see. We have a lot of problems, so my hesitation shouldn't be perceived as somebody not having problems. Right now, we're looking for a talent. So we're looking for engineers. We're looking for salespeople. We're looking for customer experience, customer success people. We are a Botco AI, which is the AI-driven chatbots or virtual agents for healthcare and adjacent markets, health and wellness. And so we are looking for partnerships in that area too. So again, if you're doing anything in healthcare and wellness, and you need somebody that needs a marketing chatbot, you let us know. But more importantly, if you have people that please refer them to us. We're hiring engineers, as I mentioned, salespeople, and all of the above.
And for those of us listening at home, because we have a tremendous amount of talented folks and investopreneurs listening, what would be the best place? Where would they find you to actually come and reach out to be able to raise their hand and say, hey, maybe I can help?
Sure, they can reach me. I'm on LinkedIn, but they can, of course, email me at anu.shukla@botco.ai.
Love it. And we will put that, if it's okay, we will put that in the episode notes as well, so that folks know where to go. Anu, thank you so much for the time today. This was a fantastic episode. Hopefully we are able to have you back on the show sometime soon. And until then, enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you.